All right, here we go on a Wednesday. It's almost like we're doing a world tour around the city of Erie, although we're a little further north, right?
I would go on a world tour. Listen, sign me up. You can get that Gem City bus. It'll be like the Madden bus all over again. We'll just start.
You think that's what we should? Is that what we should go for next? Is like a little bus?
Absolutely. Listen, if we could like tour around in like a straight like mobile home, kind of not mobile home. What's the word I'm looking for?
Like a
this
van?
You can tell we don't have these
like
kind of
van?
things. No, like one of the big like a big
an
bus.
RV.
An RV. That's
yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
looking for. You can tell we don't do those sorts of things on the side.
No,
it'd be so much fun to have an RV and just drive around and do all these crazy things. But yeah, we're live on location again.
Yeah, live on location today. First of all, welcome in everybody. For those of you who are on Facebook or YouTube or X or Instagram and just came across us and are like, what are these two goons talking on a Wednesday night? This is the Gem City Sports Podcast, as always brought to you by our friends at Repich Investments. They keep financial guidance simple. If you want more info, head over to their website, www.repichinvestments.com, or you can simply go to their website, www.repichinvestments.com, and their phone number, 814-734-3433, 814-734-3433, Repich Investments, keeping financial guidance simple. We're, of course, always thankful for Repich Investments, but tonight we're paying homage and appreciating and saying thank you to the Beehive Network, which, of course, Nick runs across Edinboro, runs across Mercyhurst, Penn State, Barron, Gannon, a network that really helps small businesses just do so many incredible things and help grow their brand as they've helped grow us. And tonight we've got over a dozen businesses that are getting a chance to showcase their skills and talents and what they've been able to receive from the Beehive. So just really cool to have an opportunity to be here. And we're thankful for the Beehive because they did a lot of our branding and our logo redesign and everything of that nature too.
Listen, go back and look at old episodes of the show. You'll see how bad we are at logo design and branding. We desperately needed the Beehive Network and everything that they do. So to be able to come out here and sit with so many other entrepreneurs in the area and just see how important this network is to the city and to local business development. I mean, it's been an amazing experience to be here, but to be a client as well and to see all the amazing logos we got, the intros that you've seen at the beginning, be able to take it and do the merch that we did at the last live show and stuff like that. I mean, oh my gosh, I don't know where we would be if we didn't have help from the Beehive Network.
Certainly wouldn't be here right now, that's for sure. It's a wonderful setting. We've got people that are watching both in person and online. So wherever you may be watching tonight, make sure to give us a like, a follow. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube. We are at Gem City SN on socials, Gem City Sports Podcast Network on YouTube. Busy episode tonight, Nick. You, compliments of Mr. Todd Rebich, are heading to Steelers training camp tomorrow. He's got a VIP extravaganza, my friends. If you're at Steelers camp tomorrow, just look to the sideline. Maybe look on the field. Nick Hartman might be playing opposite Aaron Rodgers as quarterback. He's going to be breaking down the 5 things later in the show that he wants to see from Steelers camp tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. He's got a great list. I'm going to decipher it and see if any of those are actually going to happen. Probably not, but we'll see. In just a couple of minutes, we're talking Tigers and SeaWolves trade deadline. Could we see some SeaWolves on the move with the Tigers inevitably going to need to make a move, maybe, Nick, because they have been struggling as of late? But before we get to that really quickly, the Pirates now making moves too, and we start our show. Brian Hayes, he's still in the NL Central, but he's no longer with the Pirates, traded to Cincinnati for what I consider really a pile of sticks. They get back Taylor Rogers and the 9th-rated prospect from the Reds, but the fire sale continues in Pittsburgh.
I don't know that I'd call it a fire sale.
Really?
Because let me put it this way. They're saying it's not going to be a fire sale. Now, with the Pirates, you have to take what they say with a grain of salt. Because what they say and what they do are usually 2 completely different things. So they said earlier this week that if it makes sense, they're going to make the move, but they're not necessarily buying or selling. They're trying to grow the team. And I think that comes off the heels of, what Paul Skeen said last week or earlier this week about, it would be nice to be, it's not paraphrasing, but be in a good position to be competitive.
Right.
Yeah. So, Brian Hayes is one of those guys who I loved when they signed the extension. He had that great year at the bat. He's a Gold Glove winner on the third base line. I mean, he's just a wall, which is what you need on that side of the ball. Yeah. But unfortunately, Pittsburgh is a team of fielders, and they need some batting. So they're trying to trade in that glove of Brian Hayes and pick up, a bat. But I don't know much about the new guy yet. But from what I've read so far, it's not necessarily an upgrade.
No, and
we'll wait and see.
I think, the nice thing about next season is that there is a laundry list. A couple of people put it out on social media a few minutes ago of free agent third basemen. So if you're going to get one, you could get one of the offseason. The problem is it's the Pirates. So the chances that they're going to spend the money to get one of these guys is almost non-existent, but we'll keep our fingers crossed. Anyway, the Pirates, and I think this has been a story. I mean, we don't talk about the Pirates a lot, justifiably so. They're not really worth the conversation. But it always seems like this time they're getting rid of some piece. I don't necessarily think they get rid of guys of this caliber at the trade deadline, but it's not surprising based on their current record that this is what they do. But I think at some point you have to pick a direction, right? Because I think your pitching rotation, when Jared Jones gets healthy, is going to be one of the best in the league. We know Paul Skeens, even if he doesn't end up in Pittsburgh long-term, he's still here now. And I think the frustrating thing that Pirates fans have always wondered, and I think that this is something that you're wondering now, is if not now, when? Right? Your prospect pipeline can only be so good for so long. And most of the guys who were part of that 2018, 19, 20, 21 prospect pipeline are here in Pittsburgh. So at some point you have to go for it.
I don't know, man. You would think so because we are sports fans and we want to see teams succeed. But, Mark Madden of WXDX said this 20 years ago. I'll never forget this. And he's still right about it today. And I think it's more of an echo of what's maybe not wrong with baseball today, but it's just the idea that baseball is a business, and I think that's how Pirates ownership runs it, is a business. It's a very successful business in terms of making money. However, they're not necessarily in it to win championships. So that's why all of their marketing is come see Paul Skeens pitch, not let's build a team, let's go for the playoff teams, because they're running it like a business. And don't get me wrong, they're making millions of dollars depending on who you read, but I think that's just kind of a reflection of where baseball is at right now.
Yeah, and I mean, again, trading him in division, I think that to me is the telltale sign. You're not competitive this year. You probably don't think you're going to be competitive next year. And, I think baseball's a little bit different where your championship window is probably wider than the NFL, right? NFL, you've got 2 or 3 years max and then you're done. I think baseball, you can get to that point. And when we talk about the Tigers in 2 minutes here, we're going to talk about a championship window for Detroit that I think could be 10 years long. But the offense has been the problem, and for the Pirates, I feel like they continue to draft pitching and they don't address the hitting issues.
Agreed.
And I just think we can talk about this all day, but to me, it's stagnant. I don't think Ben Cherington is the guy for the job. Obviously, Bob Nutting selling the team would be tremendous, but I don't think that's going to happen. At some point, if you're the Pirates, you have to make a couple of moves that will get your batting lineup competitive, even if it means giving up a couple of decent pitchers. Right. Because as we know right now, baseball, even with the new rules and the flamethrowers in the back end that throw 97, 98, 99, 100, you're still scoring a bunch of runs. And I just think that that's something that you still have to consider in this day and age.
Right. Well, and I think, to the Pirates' credit, too, I mean, they needed to make a move. Like, they needed to do something or the fan base was going to revolt. This does leave a hole at third base. But if it does, in fact, upgrade the batting and the just in terms of getting the hitting going, and yes, you're losing a good glove, we'll see what happens and who they replace them with here on the back end. But this is a smart move. You're not trading away Paul Skeens for a bunch more prospects.
No.
You're not trading away O'Neal Cruz, who has a lot of potential coming through in terms of, being able to hit the ball and is just a freak athlete. So I think this is a smart move, what they've done so far, because they're able to get rid of a glove and hopefully try and spark some hitting. They're not just selling the team to sell. They're not just selling prospects or stars for prospects. They are trying to improve the hitting. It's we're just gonna have to see if it actually does.
Speaking of free agent third baseman, these are just some of the list of guys who would be available next year. You look at some of the guys down the line. Okay, Mangala and Duhar might be a guy the Pirates obviously have experience with. Eugenio Suarez, which I'm sure we're going to talk about in a second. He's not going to be an Arizona Diamondback probably within 24 hours. Yohan Moncada still an option. Does Alex Bregman opt out with the Red Sox? Justin Turner is 40 years old and yet still seems like he's the ageless wonder in the league. So there are a lot of guys who you could get, but nonetheless, the Pirates are selling. Let's step away from the teams that are giving up this year and pitch into the teams that are trying to win. Detroit Tigers are trying to win. They have not done a lot of that lately, but they are really in a situation, Nick, where if they make a big move in the next 24 hours, they could be one of, if not the top team in baseball. But we're not the experts on the Tigers. We know the SeaWolves, but this guy knows Detroit.
Roger
Castillo of Tigers Minor League Report, and he's got the right hat, too. I love it, Roger.
Roger, I haven't got mine yet. I'm so jealous.
Oh, no, it's it was a madhouse to get this in the first place, because the day I was out there when we were going to go out there.
We're having trouble hearing you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
1 second. We're having We're having a couple of technical difficulties. Let's see if we can go ahead and try it now, Roger. If not, we'll get you on the back end. Go ahead.
You good? All right.
No, nothing yet.
Nothing.
Let's check this here. Default speaker. I think it's probably something on our end here.
Okay.
Go ahead and keep talking Moon Mammoths here.
Yeah. So no, the day of. Let's see here. Actually, you know what? I know what it is.
How about that? Is that better? Okay.
Still waiting, Nick. Or is there something? This is probably on our end here. This is probably the issue we got on our end.
Okay.
Nick's going to go ahead and try to do some troubleshooting here and turn the microphone down for just 1 second and 1 minute, and we'll get Roger back on in just 1 second or so here. Let's see if I can fix this. Go ahead, Nick. You got something else here. While we're doing this, we can go ahead and mention once again our sponsor, Ramifications Investments, keeping financial guidance simple. They don't have these mistakes like we do. If you want more info, head over to the website www.ramificationsinvestments.com, or you can simply go to 814-734-3433, 814-734-3433 if you want to learn more about Ramifications Investments. All right, we're speakers here because I think something's going on with our board, but that's okay. All right, Roger, Moon Mammoths. Let's see what you got about it now.
Can you guys hear me? Perfect. Yes, no, maybe. I don't know.
We are getting there.
We're getting there. All right.
I promise.
Okay.
I promise we're getting there. It's nothing on your end. It's stuff on our end. We just have plenty of problems. Go ahead and try again.
Okay.
Okay, now you're back. Now you're
okay.
Good. Now
all right.
Okay, cool. So it's our fault. It's not yours.
No worries. No, but the weekend I was out there, we were planning on going out there because it was originally supposed to be Derek Skubal bobblehead day, right. And then all of a sudden it changed, and so we were like, oh, that's weird. And then so it worked out. The stars aligned really well, and we got to see two really good games Friday and Saturday with Troy Watson throwing Saturday, and so. But yeah, not to mention it lined up perfectly with the big three heading there right at that time because that's what we thought that was going to happen. So, but the lines were saying that was the craziest experience I've ever seen in a minor league game.
Did you get a chance to chat with John Oliver?
Yes, we did. So they had him at the Erie Arena where we had a chance to interview him and what have you, and we got to talk to him for a few minutes. And I asked him a question about what his favorite stat was, and so he talked about errors because his son's collecting baseball cards and. Talking about his trip up I-90, so it was cool. He was getting some. He was familiar with the local vernacular, if you will.
I was going to say when you have a marketing team that puts plenty of time, I'm sure, into this Moon Mammoths idea, no doubt he probably knew this area like the back of his hand. But it's good to see you back. We appreciate you coming on the show. I know it's chaos for you right now because you're probably preparing to write about 7 different articles on trades. But right now, the only one that you can write is Chris Paddock because that's about the only notable name the Tigers have gotten. I know the trade deadline's not until tomorrow. We still have about 24 hours. But are you surprised, Roger, at the lack of movement so far from Detroit, given that there have been a couple of notable moves today, Brian Hayes amongst others, in the trade market?
I'm not really surprised because I think the Tigers are kind of waiting it out as much as humanly possible because this was the same scenario last year. Well, they waited it out until 5 minutes till the whole situation with the Dodgers, with the various teams last year. And so I think that the one thing that stands out to me is the fact that here you are, they got padded, and the Twins are just basically now are just going to sell everything, Duran. And then now even with, I think the Tigers should make a move because Cleveland right now, Class A, he's going to be suspended. There's possibly more relievers that are going to be in trouble with Cleveland.
Right.
And this is the time to strike. And I'm not scared of the Royals signing Lugo to an extension. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But I think that the Tigers, I think they're just kind of waiting things out because just, for example, that you guys were talking about the trade of the Pirates and Reds. I mean, what? I don't understand the Pirates' logic at all. I mean, this is the Pirates, so I'm not.
Struggle too as well, Roger.
They don't have logic, right?
Yeah, I mean, congratulations that Connor Griffin's a number 1 prospect, and that's cool, and that's he's doing really well for his age, but that's not now. I mean, I just feel sorry for Pirates fans who are very good. There's Pittsburgh fans show up for everything, and you're getting kind of hosed here at the trade deadline again. I don't know. It's really frustrating. But as far as the Tigers go, I suspect something might be happening here in the next year, but they're so tight-lipped about this, but the stars are lining up a certain way for this.
So let's go down the list of players that if you were the Nostradamus and you knew into the future, give me the 2, 3, 4, however many guys that you think Detroit will add to their roster by tomorrow. Is it a big name? Is it a couple of role players? What are we looking at in terms of names, Roger?
I think it's going to be a couple of guys that are when I wrote my article about trade ideas was to keep it simple because I think the Tigers, Scott Harris likes getting better at the margins. I think he's not a guy who's going to, this is a deadline for him that's very important, but I think he's going to keep within within a certain limit. So guys that I like was like Jake Bird from the Rockies. I like Benar, of course, for the Pirates, and Phil Maton, or Maton, the Nick Maton's brother over in the Cardinals, who's got a really good strikeout rate. I'm not sure. I don't think the Cardinals have indicated they're buying or selling, so they're kind of been right now.
Yeah.
As far as like outfield bats to go, I think Willie Castro makes a lot of sense. I mean, bringing him back would make, because his position versatility. Suarez, of course, but I know that from my understanding that the request for him is very, very high. I like Michael Sakura from the Nationals too, would be a good starter. And then everybody wants to get in the fields and add, Justin Verlander coming back. And
I was going to ask you about that.
We'll talk about that in a second. But and I do like a big swing would be somebody like Mitch Keller or Edward Cabrera from the Marlins. That would be fantastic. But those are kind of like big idea kind of things. And then Ramon Luzardo from Baltimore would be a good idea as well.
Okay, so I know you don't want to address it because you think it's dumb, but we love talking about the nostalgia aspect, right? So Eugenio Suarez leaves Detroit after they just got done with a series with the Tigers. He could be a potential returner. Justin Verlander, I don't even know if he still won a game yet in a start this season. Is he still 0 for, Roger?
I think he has allowed only one run in his last 10 innings or something like that. He's been pitching better, but I don't know if he has a win or not. I mean, just because the Giants' offense has been atrocious or inconsistent.
Right. So regardless of that, he's 1-8. So he's got one win on the season. So there you go. Is it worth it? I guess is my question. First for Verlander and then for Suarez. They're both older. Eugenio clearly has had, I think, a resurgence. And Verlander, at some point is going to turn it back on.
Yeah.
They go that route again?
Do you, though?
I don't know.
I mean, do you think he can still turn it back around?
I think they can.
I think
Verlander, I guess. Yeah.
It depends. There's nothing wrong with nostalgia. I think nostalgia is a serviceable thing. It makes the world go round and makes us feel good. In this case with Verlander and Suarez, I think it makes a lot of sense. Being that, depending on what the Tigers were willing to give up for Verlander, because he's going to be a free agent after this year, and possibly, I know he's trying to chase 300. Would that be the ultimate way to finish your career, going to the World Series or possibly going to the World Series and winning one in the team that got you there in the first place? Yeah, that would be great. Suarez would make a lot of sense too. But I think that the one thing is certain: the Tigers love their prospects.
Sure.
And there's guys that they were willing to give up, which we'll talk about here in a second. But I think for Verlander, it gives you for sure another stable arm. I think they need another arm because outside of Melton, you have Montero, but there's still uncertainty to it, and so you don't have a for sure thing. And you look at Paddock, who is a fly ball pitcher, he's not a strikeout pitcher. You need another guy that can get you strikeouts, and so Verlander would fit the bill. So Soroka would be as well, but in the fields, yeah, everybody would love the storybook of bringing these two guys back. Absolutely, I'm not going to poo-poo anybody for having that thought. Sure. But for me, I don't know, but Verlander would. I don't know. That just it really depends.
Well, I think the nostalgia thing is there, but I worry at his age. I mean, he's having an okay year, I guess, but yeah, I worry. Is it more of a nostalgia pick to sell tickets, or is that a move that really puts you over the hill to make that World Series run? And that's my fear with a guy like Verlander. I've read things over the last couple of weeks that there could be a deal not in place, but a deal that you could make even with Pittsburgh. We're talking about Pittsburgh. Yeah. Roger, you talked about Bednar. I think that would be a great fit for Detroit. And I think, to pick up some package, Detroit is in a great places we know with a lot of good prospects in their farm system, maybe they could pick up a couple bats along the way. Bednard, is one of the people that is rumored to be on the hot seat in Pittsburgh. So.
And I think that's where we go next, Roger, with this, because as we know the prospect pipeline, right? We see it in Erie with 3 of the top 4 guys in the starting lineup night after night. There are plenty others, whether it be at West Michigan, whether it's in Toledo, that could be trade pieces as well. Who do you think the Tigers would be most comfortable parting with? And is there a number in terms of top prospect that they're going to stop at? That they're not going to be like Baltimore and say, we're going to give up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to get a couple of guys. Is there certain players that you think, Roger, they're okay with parting with in a trade package?
Yeah, I think so. I think if you look at somebody like Max Anderson, for example, who is in shape, he's having a really good year. You want to take advantage of him. He's leading the Eastern League in hits right now. He's been playing third, gives him that position versatility that the Tigers have, and so that plays into their development process anyway. So, but where is he going to play? I mean, you have Hayu Lee, who that's a Harris guy. That's a guy who Harris brought in. So, do you keep? I mean, Lee right now is at AAA, so he's at that next level.
Yeah,
and essentially, you could. I don't think he's going to get called up this year, but you get the idea with him being potentially in play next year. So then. You have Jace Young, who could potentially be moved as well because he's going to be blocking. I mean, Cole Keith's playing a decent third base, and so he's gotten back to the point of, okay, third base is mine. And Max Anderson, I think between him, I mean, even Tyler Matthew got called up to Toledo today he could be potentially helping Detroit, or he could be, you never know with him or Nick or Cole Keith, who has a really good changeup, and some team might like him. And you might have to give him a reliever spot because right now between Toledo and Erie, it is a reliever haven right now. Essentially, it's both rotations have been hit by injury, and so I mean, outside I think Garrett Burhan, it just seems like it's just all relievers across the board. That being said, I think that they can draw a stream from that. If there's a team out there who wants a reliever with like Max Anderson, or even Chris Myers, who's changing his bag stance, has been hitting better, something like that. But as far as like the big 3 go, I think they're untouchable. But I think even Tyrone could even be moved at the right price.
Yeah, I think Max Anderson could start for Pittsburgh right now.
Well, and I guess that's where I think the next one comes into play because Nick mentioned David Bednar, and I think he's probably, I don't know how this is possible because the guy since 2 years ago can't throw his way out of a paper bag, in my opinion. They used him in the 9th inning when I was there last Sunday, down 7-1 of the White Sox, if that tells you anything. But be that as it may, it appears, Roger, from our seat, that the trade prices are high this year, right? Whether that is the impending CBA in a couple of years, whether that's something along the lines of there just aren't as many top-tier guys. Could it be the market's too high? What's your gauge in terms of guys the Tigers might be looking at it? And is it going to be at all surprising if we see them have to give up 1 or 2 better prospects that you maybe in other years wouldn't for a certain player of a certain caliber?
I think they have to. I mean, the market has been indicating that way, but the Tigers are just we're going to see if Scott Harris blinks here, because if you look at for example, at the Mets, I mean, Drew Gilbert is Drew Gilbert. I mean, I don't think I've seen him a couple times against Erie, and it's just because he just swings too long and what have you.
Sure.
It really depends on what even with the Reds, like I thought that it was a little too much on that too, but I digress. I think that they have to, in order to get to that above the LCS, because if the Yankees, for example, get Duran, which again, you know how it is sometimes with like this New York media, they're going to say, oh, they're in on everybody, but who knows what they're going to, but the Yankees don't have enough prospect capital to get a guy like Duran.
Right.
So that being said, I think the Tigers have enough there out of the teams that are left that they could trade. If they have to trade their prospect capital, they could get 1 or 2 marquee guys that really can help them make a difference. And if you look at who's left, Toronto just made a trade with Baltimore. Their prospect depth is a little thin. Detroit, I'm trying to think of anybody else. Like right now, Detroit has the ability to put the proper chips in play. And of course, the Dodgers are going to do what they're going to do because they're the Dodgers. And do they have enough prospect depth there? And the answer is no, because we're seeing this trend now where Dodger prospects are just really more shine than actual substance at this point.
Well, and that's why they're shelling out, billions of dollars at this point to players, because they're not building from within. They got to go out and buy. And I think that does make Detroit very unique at this deadline. I think it'll be really interesting to see what they have or what they pull off in the next 24 hours, because you do have that balance between a really great major league team and a really great farm system. So, they have the chips to play, so to speak. And I think that it'll be interesting to see how it shakes up over in Detroit and then trickles down here into Erie.
2 more quick questions for you, Roger, just in terms of gameplay perspective. Are you worried about the Tigers, be it as the last 2 weeks have been? Is it just more so of a slow spurt? How do you view this team right now, be it that they still are one of the top teams in baseball heading into August?
I thought this was fine. I thought it was really insufferable, to be honest with you, with some of the fans on Twitter and social media, because I was just getting tired of it, because the Dodgers were losing to every team. Every team has this. It's 162 games, folks. Chill out. Like, it was just very, I thought even the way they bounced back against Arizona was an example of that. Their team, like, you go in the locker room, it's the same upbeat mentality. It's a long season. For people to say this is the biggest collapse in July, what are you talking about? This is not the 64 Phillies.
You need clips for social, Roger. You need clips for social, man.
Oh my, yeah, I get it. You have to be the Stephen A. Smith. You got to do that thing and just go, well, no, but that's not me, and it never will be, and that's not Chris and I myself. So to keep things in perspective, I have worried about the bullpen. We've talked about this numerous times, that I've always thought they've needed another bat, and I'll be consistent with it. With that being said, I think that what they did today was a prime example of taking advantage of teams' errors. Dylan Dingler is getting a lot more comfortable, just selling in, getting hits versus just always going for power. They'll be fine. They'll be absolutely fine. I'm not worried about it. I'm looking at the rest of the division, and I'm laughing because of what Cleveland's doing right now. The Twins are just in a free-for-all. White Sox are what they are. Kansas City, they're not – I'm not worried about Kansas City either.
You heard it here first. Insufferable. Do not fall into the pit or the trap, Tigers fans, SeaWolves fans, whoever you may be.
Right.
Let's finish on this and come local here. Roger Castillo with Tigers Minor League Report. They do great stuff, and you'll want to follow them over the next 24 hours, plus with trade deadline coverage.
Yeah.
SeaWolves under 500, 27 games into the second half. Obviously, they're already in the playoffs. Any room for concern with some of the big bats? They're scoring runs, but more so the pitching on that side. How do you view the SeaWolves right now as they come down the stretch in the second half of the year?
I think, getting a guy like Max Alba and Mitch Mackay Ashman has been a very good plus for them. I think that they're going to help out the rotation and really help out the pitching staff. What is concerning a little bit is watching Jaden Ham still not get to that velocity that he's been pitching down in Lakeland currently right now on his rehab assignment. So then today you get the news that Jake Miller's been moved to the 60-day IL, and that's kind of concerning too. So I'm worried about, also Montalvo hasn't come back yet either. I'm worried about the pitching. I think the hitting is going to keep them in games. I think that if they can continue to get some contributions from the arms they just got from West Michigan, I think they'll hold their own. But their offense right now has been fun to watch. I mean, you look at Basueño's at bats, these lengthy at bats. He's going to figure things out sooner or later. You have McGonagall doing his thing. Max Clark is already hitting at a high level.
Oh yeah.
Add that to Jake Colton and Myers and his veteran crew, and I think that is a recipe for continuing. I'm not worried about them. I think Andrew Graham prepares them really well every day. Yeah. Well, my concern is that hopefully they have enough arms to get them back to another title, and that's where I think, depending on what happens in this trade deadline here, is if Max Anderson's here or not, I still think they have enough horses to get them there.
I'll tell you what. If we get to September and it is an Erie and Binghamton Eastern League Championship rematch from 2023, which I think we're colliding towards that, set the over-under for total runs in a 3-game series at 60. And I actually think that it's probably going to be more than that. These two teams can hit the cover off the ball.
Yeah.
It'll be fun to see what happens down the stretch. Hey, Roger, I know you're going to be busy the next 24 hours, man, but we really appreciate you coming on.
Yes,
Great
sir.
stuff as always. Love the Moon Mammoth stuff. We got to get some gear ourselves.
I tried to find some earlier, and I
you know what? I'll Oh, I have my connections to hook you guys up and
Yeah,
take care
dude.
of you guys.
Love that.
You got more than we do, man. We appreciate it. Hey, great stuff as always, and talk to you after the trade deadline, man. Always great having you on.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Roger Castillo, Tigers minor league report, co-owns it with Chris Brown. They just, I'm always amazed by the work that they do and how well they do it.
Yeah.
And now, 24 hours away, I feel like the MLB trade deadline is always, I don't think it's as intriguing as maybe the NHL or the NFL, but it always seems like right at deadline time, there's a big move.
Yeah.
And I think the Tigers are probably that team this year that are going to make it because I don't want to say they have to, but if you want to contend, I mean, AJ Hinch is well-versed enough to know you can't win everything with just prospects. He built the Astros to what they were in 15 and 16 and 17. They had to really add pieces to win the World Series, and I think that's where he stands right now with Detroit.
No, I agree. And I think that's kind of what I was getting at earlier is I think they're one of the few teams that are uniquely positioned to be able to make a move like that. I mean, you have all the prospects, you have a win now team, you have that balance of, okay, let's sell a little bit of the farm without giving away everything to make our team just that little bit better that we need. Like Roger was saying, a little bit, maybe more, maybe another arm or two to help us get over the hump and make a second half of the season push and get us to the World Series. But we're so deep in our farm system that we're not going to have to give up everything. We're going to have to maybe make some choices that we don't want to, but they're still going to end up okay on the back end. So that even if the trades, because it doesn't guarantee that it works either. You make these trades, you try to rebuild, and it doesn't always work and get you to where you want to be. So you still have, a number of prospects that you can fall back on.
Well, they've lost at least one closer, Johan Duran from the Twins heading to the Phillies last reported. So we'll see what the Tigers do. Pirates are going to sell. Tigers are going to buy. We know that for sure. We buy stock into Rebich Investments. They do a great job of keeping financial guidance simple. If you want more info, head over to the website, www.rebichinvestments.com, or you can call their number during normal business hours at 814-734-3433, our proud sponsor and our partner, Rebich Investments in Edinburgh. All right, Mr. Artman, it is that time of the episode where you give me a top 5, and this is a little bit different today because tomorrow you are going to be playing, we said quarterback at the beginning of the show. What position would you like to
I'm
go
definitely
with?
I mean, if you see me in person, 5'11", 300 pounds, I am not a quarterback.
How about tight end, TA3 behind Patton?
I got the hands. I feel like I got the hands. I don't know that I can be much of a blocker, but where I feel like I could play, I'm undersized for the NFL, but I feel like with my build, I might be able to be a rotational player in a position of need for the Steelers. That one of the things that I'm really curious to look into while I'm there tomorrow, and that's defensive line. I can pull a big snack. I can be a Casey Hampton in the middle, and I can try and hold somebody down. And literally, I'm going to have to hold them because I have no talent. They're going to just push me over. That's why I'm behind the mic, not behind center. But no, so let's start there because I am excited to make it down to camp. There's the Steelers this year are so interesting, right? And not just because of Aaron Rodgers. We'll talk about Aaron Rodgers, but their camp is so different this year because you have new players, you have new faces, but you still have the same old ways of guys like Mike Tomlin, the way they're running things like 7 shots and backs on backers, all of that is still the same. So you've seen, and I think you see this a lot in the age of social media, that you see so much coming out. Rodgers looks great. Mason looks terrible. Mason's going to win. Will Howard hasn't thrown an interception yet. He's QB1. You see all these things come out on social media, but it's a whole other thing to see it in person. Mm-hmm. So yes, I crafted a list. I'm excited to go see a couple things. And I talked about it. Let's go ahead and start with the defensive line. Yes. And this is in no particular order. I'm not psyched to go watch the defensive line, but I love, the way the starting defensive line looks, right? You take first round pick Derek Harmon. You take, the leader of the team in Cameron Hayward. You rotate out guys
Keanu
like
Benton will probably start.
I think is going to take a step forward and start. And then you have, maybe Isaiah Loudermilk as a rotational guy. After that, I'm nervous. Yeah. So I'm nervous about the defensive line. So I want to go down and see how is that rotation working. God forbid, Hayward or Harmon go down. And you got to rely on Benton and Loudermilk as your anchor in the defense. That's worrisome to me. So I'm curious about the defensive line. They don't have to be disruptive because you have newest top paid defensive end / edge rusher in TJ Watt. You have Nick Herbig. You have Highsmith on the outside. So you have pass rushers. So they really just kind of have to do their job and take up space. So in that 3-4 defense, that works well. But if any of those guys go down, Isaac, I'm nervous about that defensive line.
I think Derek Harmon, if the defense is going to want to be what they are, I think he needs to have a Defensive Rookie of the Year-esque campaign. I'm not saying he needs to be a sack leader, but I think one of the problems that Pittsburgh has been stopping the run.
Yeah.
You see TJ Watt get to the quarterback, but let's be honest, he's paid to sack the quarterback. Right. He's not paid to stop the run.
Yeah.
And as good of as a stuffer as Cam Hayward is, I think Pittsburgh has lacked that 2A, maybe 1B defensive lineman who can get in there, be a big body, and not force all 7 guys in the box to have to converge on the running back, right? I mean, we don't see play action under center anymore, but we see it plenty often in the shotgun. And so I think you make a good point with the defensive line. I don't think they have to be disruptors in the pass, but they have to be stuffers in the run. And if they're not that, the defense can't work as is.
I agree.
A 3-4 defense is not meant to be a defense in which every one of the linebackers converges in to stop the run. You have to have 3 guys up front that are stout.
Yep.
And so I think for Pittsburgh, that's huge. And I think that's a great place to start because, as we've talked about, championship teams, you're built through, to me, quarterback in the trenches, and the defensive line, huge.
Yeah.
Derek Harmon has to be a home run. And they have to hit on him, especially with Cam Hayward impending retirement at some point in the near future.
If you believe in social media accounts, Harmon looks good. So
well,
everyone
looks good.
I want to see it for myself.
Everyone looks good. I would look good in training camp. And Nick can get off the ball faster than I can. Maybe we'll have that competition.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if that's something. Maybe that's for the draft pod next year. We'll do a combine.
That would be fun. We got to start planning ahead early for that. All right, so that's number 1 on Nick's list of 5 things he's interested to hear for Steelers training camp. I can't wait to hear number 2.
All right, number 2. Let's go ahead and stay on the defensive side of the ball.
Sure.
I am, color me intrigued with the cornerbacks. Right. You have Joey Porter Jr., who is, I think, on his way to being a lockdown corner in the NFL.
Okay.
He plays physical. As long as he can stop getting penalties, I think he could have a really good career.
Yep.
I loved the signing of Darius Slay. Slay is not who he used to be coming from Philadelphia, but he is a serviceable number 2 cornerback, right? And then I thought you were good. And then you go out and you make that trade for Jalen Ramsey. Right. And you get rid of Minka. So all the question has been, well, what are you going to do with that 3-man rotation at cornerback? Are you going to play Ramsey at safety? Are you going to run 3 cornerbacks and move Juan Thornhill around to play on the back end? So I just don't know. So I want to go see what they're doing in practice and see if that can maybe give us some insight into what that cornerback rotation looks like. I know they're aging cornerbacks, but it's still got to be a top 5 cornerback room in the NFL right now. I
agree. And I think the big question will be is how much do you incorporate the nickel cornerback, right?
Yes.
Do you go 3-3-5 a lot? Because as we know, pass-heavy offenses, right, especially in your division with Baltimore and Cincinnati, and who's that guy? Jalen Ramsey, and we talked about this, Paul talked about it on the show a couple of weeks ago, is that he can be a safety-type corner, right?
Yeah.
We're almost like a rover position, kind of like what a Troy Polamalu was. I'm not saying that Jalen's as good as Troy, but enough field vision to understand when to drop back, when to be aggressive and press, and I think they'll probably give him that freedom. But that trade, I think, caught everybody off guard, and again, Jalen Ramsey's a good player, but how do you incorporate everybody? Because when you have that cornerback room, you want to be able to play everybody. I actually think the Jalen Ramsey trade was made because they're concerned about JPJ's penalties, and maybe they don't think he's as good of a player as they thought. And is that a situation where you move JPJ to a nickel corner, or do you move him up high to more of a safety role? You have options, but you have to be strategic about how you make those options count. So I like it. We know who the starters are probably going to be. I'm more interested in when we get into the 3rd and 4th quarter, how you rotate them.
Exactly. And you've seen a little bit of Ramsey all over the place already, kind of playing that nickelback, that kind of hybrid cornerback safety. Mm-hmm. From what I hear, he's being disruptive in training camp. Again, pads just went on, I think, yesterday or the day before. So it's take that with a grain of salt as well. But no, and I think, let's say they do just stick to the outside. You have Ramsey and JPJ on the outsides, and you put Slay could be a dominant nickel corner.
I agree.
And with somebody like Cincinnati who puts Jamar Chase in the slot like 78% of the time or something like that, you're going to want a top quarterback. So a cornerback. So it could honestly just be something like that. So I'm just curious to see how that rotation looks and how, are they showing signs or showing some scheme of what that defense is going to look like?
All defense, and Nick's first 2 of his top 5 things to be most interested in. He's scouting for when he gets in that quarterback room up with the 3 reps tomorrow.
That's right.
Number 3, Nick, what do you got? 5 things that you're most interested to see for Steelers training camp tomorrow.
All right, let's stick with the Jalen Ramsey trade. Although it was a different trade, it came from the same team, and I want to see what the plan is for Jonnu Smith. They made no secret that they wanted that guy, and they were going to do whatever they could to try and trade for him, even if it meant getting rid of Minka and some other picks in the deal.
Right.
So now, but what doesn't make sense about Jonnu Smith is you already have 2 good tight ends on the roster in Pat Freiermuth and Darnell Washington, right? So what does that look like? Are you really going to run 3 tight ends every play?
I'll tell you in a minute. Go ahead.
Is it going to be, you're going to run the ball and play smash mouth defense, so that makes sense. But I realistically think that Jonnu has a shot to be the number 2 wide receiver on this team, and he's going to play more slot wide receiver. So again, similar to kind of what I just said in the cornerback room, I'm interested to see the usage in the tight ends. Are you going to run 2 starting tight ends in Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith, because they're both top 10 tight ends in the NFL?
I don't think it's any question it's a 2 tight end set. I mean, Arthur Smith has done that his entire career as a head coach and an OC, and I think it plays into Pittsburgh's hands. Why would you not want to have Jonnu and Pat on the field at the same time? Especially, let's be honest, even with the signing of DK, the wide receiver room is not stacked. Roman Wilson's really going to have to be a steadfast number 2, I think, if Pittsburgh's going to want to have a chance to be competitive in the wide receiver room. Calvin Austin's Calvin Austin, right? He's a speed demon. He's going to catch 2 or 3 balls, probably get 125+ yard catch a game. That's pretty much it. And I think it's a smart play. Keep in mind, the 2 departments on offense, I mean, they were terrible in every department, but the 2 departments to me that were really glaring, in which I thought they were going to be better in, running back and offensive line.
Yes.
The offensive line could not block for the run to save their lives.
Yeah.
So this adds some bulk, it adds some beef. And let's keep in mind, between the rookie that you drafted and Jalen Warren, you're not big in the backfield.
No.
You have to have extra guys that can help block for the run. And the nice thing about, I think, Pat and Jonnu is they're both pass catchers. So why wouldn't you go with 2 tight ends, add some beef, give yourself the option? Because, look, you don't have a dual threat quarterback.
Right.
So if put it this way, they know you're running the ball, so let's just go full out and make it obvious and put all the beef
push
on
them
the
around,
line.
right?
I like it.
Darnell Washington, 6'7", 270. I think 265.
Right.
You might as well just put him at tackle. You know what I mean? Just let the big guy block. But he's got some hands, and he'll score some touchdowns this year too, and some random tight end drag routes or something like that.
I think the deserving Broderick Jones haters would agree with you in the comments section. Let us know if you think Darnell should be tight end, the right tackle or left tackle.
Listen, I'm sorry. I chose Broderick Jones as my keystone player on Flagship a few weeks ago. Go back and check that out on the podcast. And he's already injured. So, every time I make a prediction, it just goes wrong. So we need to stop having me do that. All right.
I'm going to make you do 2 more.
No, you mentioned my number 4. So the running back rotation.
Okay.
Right. I am really intrigued what that usage is going to look like, because I think Jalen Warren can be a 3-down back. Right. I was ready for him to come in and be the guy, right? You lost Najee Harris. He looked more explosive than Najee Harris last year. And then they go back and draft Caleb Johnson in the 3rd round, right? So what does that rotation look like? Is it going to be Caleb Johnson in the Najee role, where he is kind of that power back? He's got some speed, but he's got some power, but he's not a bruiser like Najee was.
No.
And Warren is really that gifted, shifty guy, the one-cut guy who can catch the ball. So they are a little similar. They're not the exact same style of running back, but I like what I see on tape of Caleb Johnson. I asked Paul after they drafted Caleb Johnson, hey, what was he ranked as your running back room? Because, Paul does the draft pod and he knows more than I do.
Right.
And he liked him, and I think he fits well for Pittsburgh. So maybe this one's for my fantasy team, because I have Jalen Warren in Dynasty. I want to see what that rotation is going to look like and how they complement one another.
Hey, by the way, we should start a Gem City Sports fantasy football league.
It's on my to-do list, brother.
Hey,
be on the lookout for that.
This is why this guy knows more than I do. I love it. Make sure to stay tuned to the comments and other socials. We're going to have that out. I'll tell you what, he's listed as 4th in the depth chart. He'll probably be 4th in the depth chart.
Just because he's a rookie.
I think Trey Sermon could be a really interesting guy for Pittsburgh this year because of his size.
Yeah.
And I don't think you're going to see him much on the field, but to me, red zone. I mean, for me, I would think red zone would be number 1 on my list for the Steelers. Can you score touchdowns?
Sure.
They
haven't been able to.
Abysmal since Big Ben left. And so, can Trey be a guy where it's inside the 10? Maybe you give him a couple of carries. I do think Caleb Johnson though a big, I think Trey's more the bruiser. So how they rotate will be very interesting. Jaylen Warren, I think he's a lot better than people give him credit for.
I do too.
He's got to be more decisive with the football. So many times you saw him trying to be a jump cut guy, just sprint outside the tackle box and just make people miss. You're too fast of a running back. I love that. I think that's a great play for the Steelers, and that is number 4 on your list. So it brings us to the last one. I'm sure that it's going to be about like Chris Boswell or something, Nick.
I was going to try and not. When you gave me this to put together for the rundown tonight, I thought, okay, I'm going to do it and not talk about Aaron Rodgers. But we can't. We got to talk about Aaron Rodgers, right? And so, again, the idea of this is going to camp and seeing it with my own eyes, because everything you hear about Rodgers on social media is the guy's a basket case. And I think that this has been maybe a year of rebuilding for him. I love the interview that he did with Kyle Brandt last week. He really humanized himself, and especially with the Terry Bradshaw comments. I thought he composed himself very well. He's saying the right things. He's doing the right things. He's putting the tape down. You know, people are saying that they're seeing things from the quarterback position they haven't seen since Big Ben. So, you know, I made my opinions known on this show about Aaron Rodgers. So I'm really excited to go and make my own decision, see what he looks like in the offense so far. Granted, he is a 40-plus-year-old quarterback, veteran at a training camp. They're not going to be pushing the limits on him, but I really want to see what he looks like, how he's fitting into the offense. What does that chemistry look like with DK Metcalf at this point? You know, so I want to see it. I want to see it, and I don't want to wait until game 1.
You know, can I just say, I really think that if Aaron Rodgers was boring, it would be great. I hope for your sake that you see boring Aaron Rodgers, because I think that's what Pittsburgh needs. And maybe it's hearsay. Maybe he's put on a nice brave and fake face. But I do think that Aaron Rodgers, I don't think authentic's the word for it, but in interviews, he just seems more calm. He doesn't seem distracted. I disagree with the signing. I've made that pretty clear. But as we've talked about off camera, you only need 3,500 yards and 25 touchdowns for him for the offense to be 10 times better. We're not asking for much, right? You've gone from an aging Ben to Kenny Pickett to Mason Rudolph to Russell Wilson and Justin Fields sprinkled in there. You haven't really had guys that have lit the world on fire. Just come in, and if you can be 75% what you were in your MVP season, maybe even 60%, they're not asking for everything. The Jets were asking for everything. I think that's where things kind of fell apart. I think Aaron Rodgers could really be a guy that even 2/3 of what he was as an MVP could help lead the Steelers to a playoff run.
Is 75%, 2/3 of Aaron Rodgers better than 100% of what you got out of Russell Wilson last year?
I don't think there's any question.
So they go 10-7 last year with a banged up, for lack of a better term, Russell Wilson. You know, you would think that that's the floor for this Steelers team right now. I'm not saying Rodgers, they're going to win. I'm not saying they're going to the Super Bowl. I picked them to go 3rd on the AFC North. But I think 10-7 is the expectation. If they do not reach 10-7, this team will implode. And it goes back to what we're talking about in 100 days that I made last week. But, you know, I think that's the floor. I think that's the expectation, is to have a winning season. Tomlin says he doesn't care about that, but you kind of do. I mean, it's at least in your head. Like, that's a pretty cool thing to talk about and say, hey, I've never had a losing season as a coach in the NFL. I would tell everybody that if that was me.
Yeah, I mean, this is the Jerry Jones all-in, realistically there as all-in. So they got to make it happen. I can't wait for you. It's going to be a lot of fun for you to be down at camp. There's going to be a lot of great stuff. Eat some good food for me.
Big thanks. Big shout out, Todd Revich.
I was going to say, I'll think of you. Hopefully you'll bring something back, at least for the group, even if it's a signed football of some kind. For Paul, of course. The resident
I thought you meant
fan.
food. I was like, you guys know I don't bring my food
the
around.
resident Steeler fan in our group chat, Paul Adamczyk. Great stuff. And again, thanks to Todd, not just for the VIP tickets for training camp, but also for sponsoring our podcast. Revich Investments, they keep financial guidance simple. For more info, go to their website, www.revichinvestments.com. 814-734-3433 is the number to dial. And again, before we go, one more thanks to the Beehive for hosting us tonight. This has been such a great event. It's a beautiful place here at Penn State Barron. And just to show that people in Erie are making things happen, and we're happy to be one of those few groups.
Yeah. I know, when we first moved here, everybody was like, why are you moving to Erie? There's nothing to do here. There's nothing good that happens. Ever since I've been here, and I've been here for 12 years now, I've seen nothing but amazing things happen here. And the Beehive is just a great way, especially in a climate, and I'm coming from an academic space, being a professor at Slippery Rock, to see how competitive that space is. And then you come to an event like this with the Beehive that has 5 different universities working together to just focus on making businesses better and to give students that work and to give people like us a chance at doing something we love. So I think the Beehive Network is an amazing tool. If you have a business or an idea or just need some branding and a website, whatever you have going out there, please contact the Beehive, because it is an amazing organization and you're going to get some professional quality work. See, look, we're getting it right here. We have partnerships with Allegheny College, Erie County Public Library, Gannon University, Mercyhurst, Barron, and Penn West Edinburgh, all working together. 6. Well, I said 5 universities, but the library is, yeah. But you called me on it. You called me on it. That's good. I need that in my life.
Fact check true.
6 different oh yeah, we did. Hallie knows. Hallie Parker hanging out backstage, her last show today too. But yeah, Lord knows I need fact checking. So yeah, 6 different businesses, organizations that collaborate with the Beehive Network.
And while we're on that topic, a big thank you to Hallie Parker, whose last show is today. She leaves us on Friday. We try to get her to sign an extension, but she's moving on to greener pasture. She doesn't want to deal with us forever.
Afford her. We can't afford her. She's better than what we can offer.
She's much better than what we deserve. Big thanks to her for handling all our social media and all our production stuff. We hope to get someone that has half as good as her, and maybe that's even us for social media when it comes to the next few months. I can't be half as
good at Hallie, so don't expect that from me.
No, well, I mean, you did teach her, so you play a part in that too. You got to give yourself a little bit of credit.
That's fair.
You better give her an A too. You're the one that's judging.
I'm not grading her. No, I'm not grading her internship, nor am I judging her internship. I am her site boss. That is out of my hands. That would be unethical of me to grade that, mostly because I would hold it over her head the whole time.
Well, she gets an A. She gets an A. There you go. I said it on the record.
There we go. I'll send it to her supervisor.
Great stuff as always from everybody. Again, thank you to the Beehive and for everyone being with us today. Make sure to follow us, like, subscribe at Gem City SN on socials, Gem City Sports Podcast Network on YouTube. We're back Monday, 9 a.m. in the morning sharp. Can't wait for that. Flagship City Sports Talk kicking us off for the month of August. It's football month. Yes,
Football's
let's go. Finally. All right, we'll see you on the other side, everybody. Take care.